Very little in Minecraft ever manages to slip my attention. I like to say I keep close tabs on the game. So that's why when a brand new fantasy roleplay server came to my attention, I was more than a little interested, so I thought, hey, why not check it out? With that being said, welcome to the world of Ouroborion. I spawned in with basically no prior knowledge about the server. All I knew was it involved surviving and fighting in a fantasy-based world, and I was gonna go check it out for myself. The very first thing to come to my attention was the spawn was a massive black spire jutting from the ocean. Seeing no better options, I decided to ascend the stairs in order to figure out what might lie at the top of this building. At the top of the tower, what I found was actually something I kind of had expected: class selection, whether it be warrior, mage, archer, or assassin. Me being the absolute melee tank I am, I decided to go warrior all the way. After this brief stop for selection of skill, I continued on down to the teleportation room. Down in this hall of portals, there were 5 gateways, each leading to one of the major nations of Ouroborion. I made sure to read up on the information of each nation and then carefully decide which one to start in, as it could greatly dictate how I played the game. Not all nations were created equally. All of them had different lore, resources, and opportunities available in them. I made sure to think carefully over every nation and the possibilities it offered. Kashar. Okay, Kashar is a merchant kingdom until finally I decided I would go to Travisium. As soon as I entered the capital, I realized it would probably be best to learn a little bit more about the lore of this strange and new land, so I got to reading. Here's just a portion of what I learned about this fascinating land. It's a holy empire currently in its 3rd age, founded by the first divine Archon, who brought together dozens of petty kingdoms in the surrounding land and created an empire that would challenge the world. Forming a religion with himself as the god, he is still worshipped today as the cornerstone upon which the fortune of Travisium rests, with his will being carried on by his descendants who are believed to still be in direct contact with him. This land had once been a glorious empire that had since fallen into much darker times. It would be a good spot for me to start off in my adventure. After running through the city for a brief period of time to see what it held, I decided it was time for me to get started on my adventure. I needed to head off in the wilderness to gain resources and become powerful. I wandered across the wilderness for a while, searching and exploring throughout the land, until I finally came to a beautiful valley I knew would serve as a great starter home. I went ahead and made my starter base inside of a tree trunk because, hey, why not? The trees were there, they needed to be used somehow. After that, it was just the basics of Minecraft, creating a mineshaft, getting better gear, and continuing on with the same progression I had done millions, if not trillions of times. After I had a little more gear, including an iron chestplate and some basic tools, I decided it would be a good time to go do some exploration. I wanted to find out more about the land I was in, and hopefully discover some secrets it might have held. While I was out and about, I did come across what looked like the abandoned remnants of a player's starter base, which was kind of interesting, and eventually I came back to the capital city of Travisium. As I returned to the glorious capital, a fact that had come to my attention earlier slowly returned to me. I liked the land of Travisium and it was alright, but it was definitely not going to be my permanent home. I wanted to go out and explore the land of Ouroborion, maybe find a new place to settle down once I was a little more powerful and prominent in the server. With that being said, I decided my best place to check out next would be the land of Les Gathiel. But before I headed there, I wanted to learn more about what land I was walking into. I needed to figure out about its past and what it currently stood for, so I got back to reading. Les Gathiel was founded out of desperation and sacrifice. Originally called Hastver, it was settled in the far north of the continent nearly 900 years ago. Long before the rise of the Travisium Empire in the First Age, the continent was dotted with many small and unique warring kingdoms. All would frequently fight over the fertile lands around the spire, coveted for its natural defense of border mountains, and of course, complete dominion over the spire and the powerful travelers it called forth. From these kingdoms, none were more infamous than the old Jarl warlords of Hastver. When not fighting one another, these warlords would descend from the mountains like an avalanche and crash against other kingdoms. This all could not last though, because with the rise of the Travisium Empire, these warlords were crushed underneath the boot of the Archon and sent back to the northern wastes where they now reside. It is there that they use whatever means necessary in order to regain a foothold in the land of Ouroborion, from raiding settlements to doing sacrifice and necromancy. It frankly sounded like a lovely region to travel to. I arrived there to find exactly what I expected: an icy kingdom in a barren wasteland of snow. Between the cold and harsh climate and the empty streets, it was honestly a little depressing. After seeing the harsh conditions in the city, I decided maybe it would be worth a shot to go check the surrounding area in the wilderness to see if that offered anything better. Frankly, it did not. All of it is harsh and frozen terrain, with no trees, plants, or anything in sight. Now that I was in the wilderness, things were about to take a little bit of a strange turn because IRL, I actually had a lot going on and I was off the server for like 2 weeks, so just bear with me and pretend I was wandering in the wilderness for many weeks. After wandering throughout the wastes of Les Gathiel, I realized that it was not going to be a good starter environment for me. I needed to return to my starter base and get a little more powerful before I ever could think about settling in this area. I walked on back to my starter base and it was actually to my surprise that I learned someone had moved into my valley while I was gone for that 2 weeks. They had decided it would be a lovely idea to build a tower and cut a path directly through where I was living. They even had the audacity to cover up my little tree home. I wasn't salty enough about this to start a full-blown war with them or anything, but I did make it known to them that I was still living there and they couldn't kick me out so easy. Now back in my home, I realized that I needed something, a method of navigation. Finding your way around Ouroborion could be quite difficult at times because it was just so massive. In order to find my way around this huge continent, I needed a map. After only a few seconds of mining, I had the necessary iron to craft a compass and was already half the way there. The next step would be getting sugarcane. Oh boy, let me tell you, I thought sugarcane would be an easy thing to find, but on Ouroborion, no it is not. I traveled across both the lands of Ramir and Kishar in search of the precious plant, but could not find a single piece of it. It was honestly wearing on my nerves so badly I thought I was going insane by the end of it. I searched for even longer in Travisium and the surrounding lands, but still none showed up. Eventually, I just got so fed up that I decided maybe my best way would just be to buy it off of someone. I found a dude who was willing to sell me some in chat and he told me to meet up at his base, so I just traveled there real quick. I met him there, he was actually pretty cool. I have no clue if he ripped me off with his price or not, but in the end I was so willing to pay whatever I had just to get my hands on that sugarcane. It was stupidly frustrating looking for it. I returned to my base, grew some of the sugarcane, and turned some of it into paper for my very first map. And with that, I had done it. I finally had my map in my hands and I was ready to begin conquering the land of Ouroborion. It was only a matter of time before I became the Supreme High King. Who knows where this grand adventure is gonna take me anyways.